Department of State Services (DSS) accuses Sahara Reporters boss Omoyele Sowore of working with federal elements to bring down President Buhari's government. Kaduna Court grants Ibrahim El-Zakzaky permission to travel abroad for medical treatment. In international news, U.S. groans as two separate mass shootings in one day claim more than 24 lives. And in sport, FIFA delegates arrive Nigeria for inspection of facilities and equipment for Under-20 Women's World Cup bid.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife, Zenat, has been granted permission to travel abroad for medical treatment. In granting the bail, Justice Darius Kobo of the Kaduna High Court ordered that the couple be accompanied on the trip by operatives of the Department of State Security, as well as other officials of the Kaduna State government. The couple were arrested in Kaduna in 2015 after soldiers killed more than 300 IMN members for allegedly throwing stones at a convoy of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai. The Nigerian Army says that was an assassination attempt. In 2015, Corporal Yakubu Dakanduna was killed by IMN members when he alighted from Buratai's convoy to disperse the group's procession during the confrontation. El-Zakzaky and Zenat were eventually arraigned before the Kaduna High Court last year and charged with unlawful gathering, criminal conspiracy, and culpable homicide. They were denied bail by the court in November. The Department of State Services, DSS, has accused the publisher of Sahara Reporters, Omoyele Sowore, of working with foreign elements to bring down the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. The security agency says Showore's alleged call for a revolution was an attempt to forcefully take over a democratically elected government. Sowore had announced plans to lead a nationwide protest today through an instrumentality of #RevolutionNow platform. Prior to his arrest on Saturday, Sowore had tweeted, quote, "All that is needed for a revolution is for the oppressed to choose a date they desire for liberty, not subjected to the approval of the oppressor." DSS spokesperson Peter Afunaya says the Secret Service is charged with the responsibility of detection and prevention of crimes and threats against the internal security of Nigeria. And the federal government has reacted to the arrest of Omoyele Sowore, presidential candidate of the African Action Congress in the February presidential elections. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu says the planned revolution now that led to Showore's arrest has a political undertone. Shehu says the days of coups and revolutions are over. It says there is a difference between peaceful protest and incitement to revolution. He said President Muhammadu Buhari won the election resoundingly and that the ballot box is the only constitutional means of changing the government. Shehu says the presidency would like the sponsors and organizers to identify themselves so Nigerians would be fully aware of those behind Showore's proposed revolution and who the beneficiaries may be. And some years ago, the Central Bank of Nigeria licensed mobile money operators as part of efforts to boost financial inclusion. Study reveals there were 117 million mobile subscribers in Nigeria, but only 56 million of them had bank accounts, making it one of the most exciting mobile money markets in the world because of its huge potentials. In Nigeria, telecom operators now serve as agents for mobile money services. And reporter Deji Badmus has an update.
About 37 million adults in Nigeria do not have access to formal banking channels. That's about 36.8% of the country's adult population. Among them are such roadside vendors who have never been to a bank and do not have bank accounts. All of their business transactions are done in cash, which they also carry around or keep at home. But for a country with 27 banks and thousands of branches, the 37 million figure of the financially excluded is quite high, but not surprising.
Some we may attribute to illiteracy, some would be the absence of banks and stuff there in those locations. And again, for some of the banks, it just does not make economic sense, because you would not blame a bank for not opening a branch in a place where they think that they would not be making money or any form of interest. But at the end of the day, these people need financial services. The banks can't service them. So we need an alternative way to service them.
Which is exactly what Nigeria's central bank has done, with granting a subsidiary of the country's biggest mobile telecoms network, MTN, a super agent license to provide mobile money services.
One of the largest agent networks that we have in Nigeria is provided by the telecoms sector, with those that they use to sell airtime, especially in the rural areas. So the expectation would be that MTN would be leveraging on this agent network to get to people that are not necessarily banked or who don't have banks around them.
With a combined subscriber base of over 170 million, telecoms operators in the country have been making an aggressive push to be allowed a share of the mobile money market, an area that the commercial banks have dominated. With the central bank now opening up the space, the policy is expected to turn the over 1 million airtime agents of the telcos across the country into mobile money agents, thereby revolutionizing the mobile money ecosystem in the country.
One of the things that we would expect to happen is partnership with some of the banks and with the SANEF initiative as well, where beyond cash in, cash out transactions, these agency networks would also extend to services such as account opening and some of the actual things that would help to include others, open accounts, BVN registration, so that more people get into the financially included pool.
With the advent of mobile money services, Kenya and Rwanda currently have the highest rate of financial inclusion in Africa, followed by Uganda and Tanzania. But Nigeria could soon be joining that list, should the CBN financial inclusion strategy works out fine.
Coming up, African stories. 19 die in car explosion in central Cairo. And later, international news. 29 killed in 2 separate mass shootings in the US.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In African stories, Egypt's health ministry said on Monday 19 persons were killed in a car explosion in central Cairo outside Egypt's National Cancer Institute. 30 persons were injured in the blaze that ensued. The Interior Ministry said a car traveling against oncoming traffic collided with 3 vehicles and exploded. There is no immediate official indication that the incident was an attack or terror-related. The health ministry says staff and patients inside the hospital were unharmed, and staff at the nearby National Cancer Institute have been evacuated. Egypt's public prosecutor is investigating the cause of the incident. Monday's explosion comes as Egypt's vital tourism industry is showing signs of recovery after years of stagnation because of political turmoil and violence that followed the 2011 uprising and the overthrow of former President Hosni Mubarak. Sudan Army and the main opposition have signed a constitutional declaration on Sunday that will pave the way for a new period of transitional government in the turmoil-hit country, following the overthrow of longtime leader Omar al-Bashir and months of endless protests. The two sides reached agreements and lengthy negotiations over the weekend on the shape of the transitional government. Foreign leaders are expected to attend the signing of the deal by both parties in Khartoum later this month. Sunday's formalities were attended by African Union and Ethiopian mediators who had helped broker the accord. Hundreds celebrated in the streets, dancing, chanting revolutionary songs, waving national flags and sounding horns. It is very likely many people don't wake up thinking about how they would make money from fish skin. Yes, fish skin. You may not be thinking about that, but a group of Kenyan entrepreneurs is looking into how it can tap into the business potential of just that fish skin. Our reporter Terry Wangari tells us more.
Kitale is known for agriculture, mainly maize, beans, cabbage and poultry. However, an unlikely industry is steadily growing in this agricultural hub. A formerly employed couple decided to start a fish processing plant here in Kitale. What makes their venture unique is that they process every single part of the fish, including the skin. James Ambani and his wife Ara Kidemu started Victorian Foods in Kitale in 2007. The idea was to set up their own fish processing factory that sources specifically Nile perch from Lake Turkana, the world's largest desert lake located in the north of Kenya. The transport logistics from Turkana to Kitale are steep due to poor road networks. To reduce costs, they decided to cut out the middleman.
We work directly with the fishermen in Turkana. So they go into the lake, they fish, they bring it to us, we buy it from them. So we actually pay them cash on delivery. As soon as they catch the fish, usually they go to fish in the night. So they stay there overnight. The next day they bring in the fish. We weigh it, we get the weight, we record the weight, and then we store it in ice.
The ice-to-fish ratio is 2:1 to account for melting during transportation, which is via road. This ensures the fish is kept fresh till it reaches the factory here in Kitale. From there, it's washed, deboned, deskinned, filleted, and stored in a freezer to be distributed countrywide. But nothing in this factory goes to waste.
We started our own processing plant and realized there was a lot of fish skin waste that was coming from the factory. And once again, I said, okay, now what are we going to do with this skin that we are burying, or would sell it at 3 bob at the market for the mamas to make some choma fish skin. So we said, okay, let's see what we can do. And I said, why can't we make leather? Don't we get leather from cows and goats and even exotic leather from crocodiles? Why can't we try and explore how to make use of this skin?
The factory started processing leather in 2015. The leather can be produced in large sizes due to the size of the Nile perch, which can grow as large as 6 feet and 2 meters in length. Since it began processing leather, Victorian Foods now produces 400 kgs of leather per week and sells it at $5 per square foot.
I have done my research. I actually traveled to Singapore and got some knowledge on it. And also I have got some training also from an Italian. So we now will be able to get this product done here in Kenya. Made in Kenya, proudly Kenyan.
The factory has had a big impact on the local community. It employs 300 fishermen and women while transferring the skill to others. Despite the logistical problems with transport and a shortage of machinery, Kitale is on the road to diversifying its economy beyond agriculture. Victorian Foods' biggest exporter is Europe. It hopes to build a processing plant in Turkana that can ship processed fish and leather globally.
Ebola researchers have launched an Ebola vaccine trial in the western part of the country on the border with the DR Congo in an effort to counter the disease in Uganda. Leader of the campaign, Uganda researcher Dr. Pontiano Kalibu, says the trial will take about 2 years and will target 800 individuals, including health and frontline workers. They believe the operation will provide key information about the vaccine's immune response and safety. In the DRC, where the Ebola epidemic is acute, officials say Congolese authorities were racing to contain the deadly virus after a gold miner with a large family contaminated several persons in the eastern main city of Goma before dying of the hemorrhagic fever. The government's Ebola response coordinator, Jean-Jacques Migambe, says it is estimated that half of the Ebola cases were going unidentified, which has killed at least 1,800 persons have died since the outbreak started a year ago.
When we return, international news, 29 killed in 2 separate mass shootings in the U.S. And later, sport. FIFA delegates arrive in Nigeria for inspection of equipment.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In international stories, the U.S. has experienced 2 mass shootings on Sunday in different states, Texas and Ohio. In 13 hours of carnage, 2 shooters in separate incidents killed 29 persons and injured dozens, leaving authorities searching for motives behind the mayhem. U.S. President Donald Trump ordered flags at all government buildings to be flown at half-staff for the next 5 days as a mark of solemn respect for the victims of the terrible act of violence in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio. Officials say they will seek the death penalty for the Texas attack, which they are treating as an act of domestic terrorism. Hate has no place in our country. Trump said Sunday that there is no room for hate in the country. He told reporters much is being done to stop such attacks in the future. A gunman wearing body armor and carrying an extra magazine of ammunition was shot to death by police in just under a minute after he opened fire in a popular nightlife area in the Midwest city of Dayton early on Sunday. The man killed 9 persons, including his own sister. He also wounded at least 27, 4 seriously. Police said they believe there was only one shooter in the incident, 24-year-old Conobet, who said on social media that he was a psychology student at a community college in the Dayton area, but police have yet to suggest a motive. They said Betts was white, as were 3 of the fatalities. The 6 others were African Americans. The Ohio bloodshed occurred about 13 hours after police in the U.S.-Mexican border city of El Paso say a gunman opened. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said on Monday that U.S. intermediate-range missiles will not be deployed in his country in an apparent response to the U.S. revelation that it plans to site missiles in the Asia-Pacific region. Officials from both governments held talks in Sydney over the weekend that ended with a joint statement in which the 2 allies pledged to strengthen opposition to Chinese activities in Asia-Pacific, as both sides have become increasingly concerned about China's spreading influence. And during the talks, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper spoke of hopes to deploy missiles in the Asia-Pacific region in coming months following Washington's withdrawal from a landmark area control treaty last week. Esper's comments prompted speculation that Australia had been asked to host the missiles, but Morrison denied that any request had been made and said Australia would decline if it was asked in the future. And South Korea's president has described the country's escalating trade war with Japan as a wake-up call to revamp its economy. He issued a nationalistic call for economic cooperation with North Korea on Sunday, which he said would allow the Koreas to raise Japan's economic superiority in one burst. President Moon Jae-in made the comments during a meeting with senior aides to discuss Japan's trade curbs in South Korea. They came as a surprise as North Korea has raised tensions in recent weeks with tests of new short-range weapons that experts say poses a serious threat to South Korea's security. Moon has described Japan's move to downgrade South Korea's trade status and tighten controls on exports to South Korean manufacturers as a deliberate attempt to damage his country's exports-dependent economy.
Up next, sports. FIFA delegates arrive Nigeria for inspection of equipment ahead of Under-20 Women's World Cup bid.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, the Tigers leave Nigeria today for the FIBA AlphaBasket Women's Championship in Dakar, Senegal. They're currently 19th in the FIBA World Ranking and 2nd in Africa. The Nigerians are drawn in Group B alongside Cameroon and Tunisia at the competition, which begins on Saturday. The three-time AlphaBasket champions successfully defended their title at the 2005 edition after winning it in 2003. A 5-man inspection team from World Football Governing Body FIFA are in Lagos for a 4-day inspection of facilities and equipment that Nigeria has put forward to host the 10th FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup Championship next year. Nigeria is presenting Lagos, Benin City, Asaba and Uyo for the hosting of the 16-nation finals. The inspection team will begin work in Lagos on Tuesday with visits to some of the sites and a courtesy call and Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The inspection party will then fly to Abuja on Thursday for a meeting with the Permanent Secretary in the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, Olushade Adeshola, before paying a courtesy call on Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.